Hello everybody, this is Snarist and welcome back to my Dead Space 2 Zealot difficulty walkthrough, and this is chapter 11. And this was a pretty notorious chapter for me during my hardcore walkthrough, because I ended up dying to some bullshit. Because there's one particular sequence in this mission where you can get gang swarmed by a whole lot of different necromorphs, the black variants of course. There's a lot of lurkers coming up, and you know, just be on guard. Have your volume turned up just so you know what's coming. Be prepared to duck behind something, because there'll be spitters, there'll be slashers, and there'll be lurkers primarily. And there's only one other tough sequence besides that takes place at the end of chapter 11. But I'm quite surprised that I've managed to make pretty consistent conversation about the game just on its own, and it's been really good. Because the last few chapters and so have been quite long, and you know, I find that I'm not really all that sick of talking at the moment and exhausted. As you saw just then, on the left-hand side, one of those black stalkers still isn't completely done for, so you can go ahead and you can remove one of his claws and hit him with it and get some loot out of it, as well as some other bits and pieces. Don't rush too much down the sequence here, because you'll get rammed from behind and you won't be able to hear it. I go down the left side here, because there's a box and some stuff here. But I personally go down the other side, because what you need to do is you need to move down slowly, keep your back to the wall and just strafe to the right, and whenever anything comes at you, just hit it with stasis on the ground. That's only if it charges you, otherwise just sort of wait for them to charge out, because then you're going to have to deal with these babies as well. Because if you take too long getting down the platform, or down the ramp, sorry, then you will get attacked by the babies, and you do not want to be stuck between them and stalkers that are ready to pick you off at a moment's notice. But thankfully they only spawn in when you're about halfway down, and at that point you might as well just either run down or slowly strafe down with your back to the wall. That could have gone a lot smoother than what I just showed, but you'll see in my hardcore walkthrough that I'll do that. But otherwise, yeah, down this side you'll have 3 light poles you can use kinesis to kill them with. So this sequence is sped up a little bit because there's going to be some spores that'll drop mines. Just a few bits and pieces to collect here and there, then you've got a panel to remove to open up the door. And there aren't that many spores in this next area coming up, but it's still pretty dangerous to be ignorant of them. A couple of them are in some cheeky spots. And once you do, you'll come to a store. And at this point, from that moment onwards, you are going to be faced with a large open mine area. And there'll be a catwalk which leads you to some explosives, most of which you don't even need to use. And there's nothing for you up there, no enemies spawning in, but there's going to be quite a few spitters, there's going to be some slashes, but it's mostly going to be lurkers, and they're going to be all over the place. Just listen out for them, the noises they make. Make sure you've got plenty of cover nearby so that you can duck out of the way. But there's no such thing as rushing that part quickly, because it's so dark, and the moment you get the giant battery plugged in to get power, you've got to take one out of a spare reserve, and then you've got to plug it into this little area there. I got cheated by mistake, and I have no idea where it came from. I got confused, and it's actually in the roof. But of course, when I got hit, not only did I survive, but the explosion from off of my own body must have caught it just at the last moment. So you won't see me make that mistake in my hardcore walkthrough, but yeah. And as you can see at this point, I've got 40k of money, which you only need 36 to get the advanced suit later on here. And from the looks of things, I sped up the sequence as well, which probably explains why this video is only 20 minutes long and not half an hour like I thought it would be. But the reason why I'm speeding it up, even though this is kind of an important sequence, is because fighting only ever really happens in small bursts, but when it does happen, you're in danger. So there's a few items around the corner here across this catwalk. I apologise if it's way too dark. But when you start moving down that ramp, when you move down that ramp for the first time, you're going to see a cyst pop out of the wall. Just shoot it immediately and run forward, because there'll be a rock to your right that you can take cover against before a spitter hits you and slows you down. But you need to be quick, because there'll be a black necromorph slasher that appears behind you, and you probably won't be able to kill it fast enough before the cyst can get to you. But the best thing to do is just to go across that catwalk to get those few items, because when you're coming back, you'll have to deal with a couple of spitters. Might as well get them out of the way. Yeah, I'm making a big mistake here, but I ran forward, and because I was more aggressive, the Cyst actually appeared right where the spitter spawned in, so they were both together and I could take them both out. So if you're aggressive in this instance, then it does work out, especially because there's a stasis canister nearby there, so it can end up hitting you as well. And see, I'm being a lot more aggressive now, even though there's lurkers about all over the walls. I'm doing this because I died on the sequence a few times, and I got real angry with it, so I decided to play a little bit more aggressively. And this was my reward. Because if you can do this quickly, then yeah, you'll still have like 5 or 6 lurkers to deal with. But at the same time, you've got a stasis panel right here, so you can fill your stasis back up. And you've also got a little column in the middle of that room there, so you can use it as cover. You know, when the lurkers fire their little things at you. And you can move backwards and forwards, and nothing spawns behind you or above you or on your side, so you're completely covered in all bases. And when enemies stop spawning in, the further you go out, you'll have to face another couple of Cysts. There'll be some lurkers on your way out. There'll also be a few of those babies lying around. That's what I mean when I say, like, as you move up this ramp and you go back and forth, there'll be a spitter, there'll be a slasher. There's always going to be something that spawns in front of you and behind you. It's all distractions. But as soon as you get up here, you should be safe. And once you do that, you've only got one other tough sequence in the game. There's a slasher on its way. I want to deal with it right now. Now, unfortunately, one explosive straight to the face of a black necromorph is not enough to kill it. So, you know, don't even bother. Just go for the shots. And you go through this door here, and once you take care of a few boxes, Stross will appear with Ellie's eyes on a screwdriver, and you just run on past it. Then you get dragged out into a space area. And this thing here takes a little bit of time to spawn in, especially if you get close enough to it. So hit it with stasis, just strafe to your left or your right. Hopefully you can kill this thing before it sets off a few more of these little projectiles. Because while you do have to make sure you strafe left and right to avoid these things, it is still possible to hold your aim and move to the left and the right and still avoid them. Because it's more so about speed. Technically, the faster you move to the left or the right, the more it kind of arcs to intercept you. So unless you're fully committed to moving to one side or another, and you're prepared for it, and depending on certain angles, it will probably hit you. Shooting it seems like a bit of a waste, even though at this point you should have plenty of ammunition to expend. And one of these things, like I shot then, it's already got a thruster on it. This thing doesn't have a thruster on it, and yeah, those 2 laser beams clusters are blocking the entrance you need to get to. And there's plenty of oxygen lying around in these things and along the top bars of this little outside station area. Pick up one of these things, move it towards whatever this thing is, and just move the laser cluster out of the way when you shoot it. And then you'll go through a couple of different hallways with some spores, but there's some air in there if you need it. And it's very obvious where they are, even though you can barely hear the spores. So it's really not a big deal. And as you make your way back in, you'll be able to open up a secret door and get the advanced suit schematic. You'll have a few more spores to deal with. Then you'll run into Stross on your way back, and then you can go to the store. You can go ahead and buy the advanced suit, buy whatever other supplies you need before you move on. Because you're going to come to a big encounter in sequence where, I believe from memory on my hardcore walkthrough, that's when I get the force gun for the first time, because the force gun is great for crowd control, and it's going to do wonders in that elevator sequence that I'm mentioning at the end of chapter 11. But thankfully, this is pretty much the last of all the longer sequences, because chapter 12 is only like 10 minutes long at most, chapter 13 is just a little bit longer, but not too much, and chapter 14 and 15 are both incredibly short, because half the time I'm running for my life. And while it isn't the most gracefully done, because chapter 13 and onwards is where my controller bugged out and I had to switch to PC and I was not used to mouse and keyboard at all, so I made a lot of misclicks and inputs, and you know, you'll see a few of those mistakes, but if I can still make those mistakes, do the strategies I was after and still get good results, then you should be able to do the same. This part here can be tricky, but it just requires a bit of patience while moving forward. You can technically rush this and you'll be alright, but there's still a lot of loot around here, and if you get good shots on these enemies and you can take them out effectively without wasting too much ammo, then you're going to get a lot of supplies out of it. So take advantage of these light poles, use them on whatever necromorph gets close to you. When you start to move up little by little, you'll have a necromorph spawning in front of you, or just a little bit ahead of you. That was a good shot by me, took out the lurker, or almost. I can't quite grab that canister, so I've got to be at the other end to be able to pick that up, but I can pick up those two if I want. So don't forget about those canisters. You know, so just move forward, back up, move forward, back up. But whenever a necromorph jumps in front of you, or comes up the side, just keep in mind that you can either take it out quickly, or stasis it, and get ready for whatever comes at you from behind, because there will be other necromorphs that spawn in behind you. Thankfully, the spitter is on its own. Don't move up too far, otherwise you'll force others to spawn in. But when you go further up here, there'll be a slasher that jumps out at you, but then there'll be something else that spawns in behind you at the beginning of where you came into this room. So there's a power node on this net here as well, so pick that up. Use stasis on the slasher, I'm pretty sure I used it twice. I'm going to use stasis on that one, and I'm going to get around him so that both of them are going to come towards me. I'm going to get as much damage as I can off of this. Now the other one's lagging behind a little bit, so I'm just going to use it on the first one, and there's a couple of other slashers. So don't be afraid to go ham on your stasis if you have it, or if you want to use a stasis module, go right ahead. You should have more than enough money and resources in the game to make good use of it. And apart from a couple of other enemies that will pop in as you get near the exit, you should be all good from here. And that one little explosive canister down there can't be picked up unless you get to this angle here. But there'll be another spitter there as I trip it up with a box throw. And I managed to take out the leg of the slasher. And I can take them both out at the same time. I'm looking back, and of course there's one that spawned in. And he's a lot more passive because he's further away. He's got all those obstacles that are interrupting his pathing. I finally pick up that explosive canister and I throw it at him. Bit overkill, but I'm trying to grab this stuff off the net. He keeps grabbing the limbs, and I definitely want to grab that because it's a stasis module. Very, very important. Personally, I think a good way to perhaps, it would make the game less fun, but a good way to balance the stasis modules, because they're so useful. Like, your stasis already charges up super fast, but to maybe not make it so OP that it refills your entire stasis, unlike, you know, let's say, you know, health, it takes quite a bit of health now to build everything back up again. With stasis, it could maybe only fill up, like, a full stasis module could maybe only fill up like half of your bar, like 2 pips, because it already recharges, so why not? So there's quite a few useful things in here, and there's a semiconductor, and I definitely want that for the extra money. So a good thing you can do is just take any small health kits you find and just use them to see if you can get some health back. Otherwise, just drop any ammo that you don't need, because even a small med kit is still worth 1,000 credits, and it's still worth more than most of whatever you'll find and pick up when it comes to ammo. And there's a transition there because I got killed, because there's a set of spores in this room, and I did not have my headphones on, so I could not hear it. Now, technically, there is a spore off to the right, over the railing and upwards, but because it's placed in such a weird position, it can't actually hit you no matter what you do. And I don't know why it exists there, and it kept on confusing me. I think there might have been a mistake, but there's actually one right here, so be careful. One shot for the plasma cutter with the special upgrade equipped will do it just fine. And when you get halfway through opening up this wall panel, Stross will come through the door and attack you. You just got to mash to get him off you. And if you stomp his body, or punch him, then he'll drop an audio log, which kind of goes along with what he's been dealing with, to show that, much like Isaac, he knows he has to stop the marker, and he's trying to do it, but Stross just doesn't have the willpower to be able to do it. Isaac is different. Isaac is a lot stronger than Stross is. He's got a much more higher resistance to it. And so Stross is too ridden with guilt, whereas Isaac learned to accept his guilt. So while in a way the marker still wants Isaac dead, it's much more beneficial if the marker can get Isaac to reach the end so that she can absorb him into the whole marker thing. And, you know, either outcome is preferable, but it's just much more convenient for the marker's influence to be able to get him closer to the marker itself. You know, to help trigger a convergence event, because technically the necromorphs get in to trigger the convergence event, which is what the marker wanted. And it wouldn't have been possible if Isaac didn't sabotage the facility and let them in just so he could get through. But because the marker didn't think that Isaac would be able to do it, and if you fail at resisting what's going on with Nicole and trying to get over his guilt, if Isaac couldn't accept his guilt, then he wouldn't have been able to resist the Marcus influence and the insanity that it was bringing on him, and it would eventually lead to his death, in which we could assume all the times where Ghost Nicole tries to kill Isaac is probably just Isaac giving in and killing himself because he's so ridden with guilt. So now the speed of the game returns to normal. We've now got the advanced suit on, and it looks so cool. It really does. It's probably the best looking suit in all the Dead Space games, even with all the DLC stuff and anything that comes out of Dead Space 3. Like, sure, the engineering suit from Dead Space 1 is iconic, but this is, this is it. This is the shit. It's sleek, it's got a good colour scheme, and the helmet's very iconic. And this is the final part of Chapter 11, and it's a very tough sequence because you're going to get swarmed by a bunch of necromorphs on an elevator, and this is where the force gun would come in very, very useful. It wouldn't do much damage to them, and would barely kill any of them, but it's great for knocking them down in crowd control. Like knocking them down in stasis. Although I tell you what, the contact beam, its alternate fire to slam the ground and create like a stasis field is extremely OP for close quarter situations like that. Before you bring the elevator down, just make sure you grab the loot and supplies over there. And by the way, this is what I forgot to mention before when I brought up the Dead Space mobile game. You can find a couple of different audio logs that's recorded by Vandal, and Vandal is the protagonist of the Dead Space mobile game. It sounds like a dude because of the voice filter, but it's actually a chick, and Vandal is the code name that the unitologist gave her. And you can hear these audio logs in her original like female voice, whereas in the game, the mobile game, it's spoken with a more distorted, like robotic voice, or a deeper, modified, kind of monotone voice almost. So in this sequence, unfortunately, it's not just the black slashes you have to deal with when they jump down and can cause you to stagger a little bit. It's all these minors, and these minor necromorphs have armor either on their legs or their arms. So while they are just regular slashes, they have some armor on them. And that's why even just using kinesis like this doesn't always work, because it may not kill them depending on what your damage is like on the rig, but they just move so fast when they drop down that it's impossible to deal with. So I'm trying to use stasis right now to freeze them, but I can't because they keep slashing me. 3 of them jump down on my position at the same time. If one of those was a black necromorph, I would be dead. And what kind of shit is that, isn't it? So I'm trying to heal now, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, I do have enough. So I was just trying to make sure I didn't heal at the wrong moment, but you have to go along the sequence quite a while. It goes on for about 2.5 minutes, and you have to fight quite a few necromorphs. I believe the elevator stops at a certain point, and then you can fight them normally, but I'm pretty sure most people would kill all of these necromorphs before getting to the top floor, because it just demands that much from you, especially on Zealot difficulty, because if not, then you're probably already dead. See, look how many of them there are. And when they jump at you, and even like, I understand it with the black necromorphs, because when you shoot their body several times, they don't stagger, but if you do that and shoot them several times in the chest, if there's any other necromorph, they stagger. Like it always happens, especially in the first game. The first game is consistently good with this. I'm pretty sure you could still stagger them by shooting them in the body. With Dead Space 2, it's a little bit up in the air as to whether they get stunned or not. Or if they're that close to you, that when you aim up your gun, technically your gun glitches through them. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it feels like it sometimes. But the good thing about the advanced suit here is that your stasis charge not only charges up even faster because you've got a higher tier of suit, but there's a special ability within this suit specifically which ensures that you get more stasis a lot faster. And that's really great, and that's why I like the suit a lot, because not only does it give you the most inventory slots and the most armor, but it also allows you to get the fastest status recharge on top of a bonus already. And I just skipped a little sequence with Nicole where you have to mash to break free and learn acceptance of your guilt and everything. And then there's just a store here, and there's also a bench, stock up on what you need. And this is going to be where I switch to mouse and keyboard, I'm pretty sure. If not, if Chapter 12 doesn't have me working mouse and keyboard, I'll be able to tell. If not, then it'll be Chapter 13 onwards. because I actually had to replay the sequence because I didn't save, and I got real pissed off and annoyed, and I felt like stopping just for a little bit. But I'm like, nah, I better go back and finish it off. But anyway, I've rambled enough. This is the end of the chapter. Now we come to chapter 12, and I'll see you guys then.